Has Keir Starmer got a point? Is the Prime Minister ignoring northern voices, northern constituencies at the moment?
In terms of ignoring, I think that that's probably characteristic of many decades of governments, not just the Conservatives. But I do think that he's correct in terms of the levelling up strategy, if you could call it a strategy. If you look at the white paper, the ideas sort of quite short term, ideas about devolving certain areas and not others, sort of trying to give local councils more power. But these are things that, one, if they do develop into a more coherent policy, the impact is not going to be seen by the next election, never mind even the next 10 years, possibly. And also, this is going to be something that is, it needs to be fueled by growth, by higher wages. These are things that are not happening. We have soaring inflation rates, we have a cost of living crisis. It's interesting to see how the government expects these plans to sort of be formed anytime soon with these factors happening. We know that they are global factors, but they have been caused in part by some of the overregulation of businesses during COVID that the UK government did participate in, and also Labour also voted for. And these are factors that aren't going away anytime soon, basically. If you look at the Fed in the US, if you look at inflation rates across Europe, across the developed world, the developing world especially suffering from things like grain shortages due to the Ukraine crisis. These are massive global factors, and we can't even know really how the economic situation is going to look by the end of the year. So I think that while, of course, levelling up regionally is a laudable aim and something I hope that we can work towards, I think that Keir Starmer is right to point out the incoherence. Of course, the question is, could Keir Starmer's Labour, if they were in government, make a better job of this? This speech is quite light on policy, but obviously the aim of the speech is to sort of big up himself to, the local government association. So it's not necessarily, he's not going to be standing there for a couple hours talking in detail, though then again his conference speech last year was very, very long, so who knows, we could see a longer version of it later today. But I think that's the big question for voters. Will Labour be able to deliver on levelling up more, looking at the economic situation? Not necessarily, because where's the money, basically?
Yes, I mean, as you say, I think it's a real dilemma for voters because on the one hand, they may well take the opinion that the present government isn't doing a great job. On the other hand, whether the other side, whether Labour could do any better, we just don't know, I suppose, do we? And I would reckon that, do you think a lot of voters would actually be thinking now, give the other lot a go, give Labour a chance, they can't do any worse?
I think it depends, and I think the next election is, well, we've had a lot of interesting elections recently, but could be a particularly interesting one because we still have a big hangover in red wall areas, in sort of Brexit voting areas where I'm from as well, that people, maybe traditionally they voted Labour, but they know how Labour, especially Keir Starmer, he was very big on obviously having a people's vote, having a second referendum, and not delivering Brexit. I think lots of people are still sceptical about that. And it's not even necessarily about the nitty gritty of certain Brexit policies. It's more about Brexit sort of being about, sovereignty and about obviously leaving the EU, but about sort of a pushback at the sort of elites. And Keir Starmer is obviously seen as one of them. I'm not saying that Boris Johnson isn't as well, but obviously he sort of got one side of a lot of people by touting the Brexit line. I think there's a lot of distrust, and I think that while levelling up, or obviously most usual people aren't going around saying, oh, have you heard about the levelling up strategy? It's more sort of, do I have money in my pocket? That is obviously something that people will vote on, and it won't necessarily be, oh, can Keir Starmer, deliver this mental health hub, in my neighbourhood with enough funding. It'll be more sort of, do I think Labour can do better in terms of finances? I think most people won't sort of have a great view, considering obviously the financial crash, which wasn't all Labour's fault, but because of global circumstances, but they oversaw it. And so I think they're associated with that, and they did overspend in some ways, of course. I think that association has dwindled a little bit just because of how long the Tories have been in government, and also they're now looking at how the Tories have dealt with the economy and the huge deficit that we have under them, a lot due to COVID. So I think that people will be more willing to give Labour a chance, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have, a landslide Labour victory in 2024.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.